All right. I now call the June 18th, 2024 special meeting of the City Council to order. Mrs. Hoffman, if you can please take roll.
Ms. Nicely?
Present.
Mr. Cahill? Ms. Kyle?
Here.
Mr. Skidmore? Here. Mr. Hermes?
Here.
Ms. Skidmore? Here. Ms. Reckers? Ms. Jasper Lucas?
Here.
Ms. Wilson?
You got like 4 pens there, just for it.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Mrs. Hoffman. I appreciate that. Legislation. Mr. Gatlin, would you like to do something?
All right, first we have an ordinance to the City of Erlanger, Kenton County, Kentucky, establishing a personnel pay and classification plan for all Erlanger employees and non-elected city officials. As you can see, attached to the ordinance is the proposed wage scale plan for 2025. What is struck through is what is being changed. The number below is what it's being changed to, and that all is in relation to the COLA 3.4% raise. And when I say raise, increase, these are the pay bands for which we're allowed to pay these bands in.
Okay, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this ordinance as read? Ms. Kyle, Ms. Nicely, any discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Hermes?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Skidmore? Yes, ma'am. Ms. Kyle?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Jasper Lucas?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Nicely?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Skidmore?
All right, motion carried.
All right, next we have the second reading of our budget, which is an ordinance of the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, adopting a budget for the City of Erlanger for the fiscal year beginning on July 1, 2024, and providing that no money shall be expended by or on behalf of the City of Erlanger except in accordance with that adopted budget. You can see attached the spreadsheet, and I do want to bring to your attention, and I know that Ms. Kramer has also sent a memo on this, there are always changes between a first reading and a second reading because a lot of times toward the end of the year some real numbers start to come in. These, in my opinion, are non-substantive changes, but you can see the changes from the first reading. One is that the updated municipal road aid amount of $428,165 compared to last year's placeholder of $380,000. And then also the ambulance 64 remount was budgeted for fiscal year 2024 for $260,000. The city has paid half of that remount in the amount of $128,000 due to vendor delays. The remount is now expected to be completed in July 2024, so the amount of $131,835 has been rolled forward to fiscal year 2025. And further, at the first reading, the capital fund expenditures previously totaled $9,195,000. This has been adjusted to $9,327,000 after actual numbers have come in.
All right, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this ordinance as read? Mr. Hermes, Ms. Kyle, any discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Skidmore? Mr. Hermes?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Skidmore? Ms. Nicely?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Wilson?
Ma'am.
Ms. Jasper Lucas?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Kyle?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
All right, finally, we have an ordinance to the City of Erlanger in Kenton County, Kentucky, approving and adopting a supplement to the Code of Ordinances of the city. This is a normal housekeeping measure, and I want to really commend the City of Erlanger and especially our clerk in making sure this is done each year. There are a lot of cities I represent that I keep pushing them and saying, hey, we need to do this, we need to do this. And Erlanger is always consistently doing this. And one, I think it's probably required under the KRS to do it. And two, and just as importantly, I think it's really important for our citizens, our residents, our taxpayers to be able to always go online and see the most current ordinances, and this is what this allows us to do. So this amends from 2567 through 2558, and it shifts it to American legal. It makes it a part of our Code of Ordinances.
All right, do I entertain a motion that we adopt this ordinance as read? Ms. Jasper Lucas, Ms. Kyle, any discussion? All in favor, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Kyle,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Jasper Lucas,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Wilson, Ms. Nicely,
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Skidmore, Mr. Hermes,
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Skidmore.
All right, motion carried. Do I entertain a motion that we adjourn? Ms. Kyle, Ms. Nicely, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We will be back.
We're going to wait longer than the next meeting will be.
right, it is 7 o'clock. Time to start the City Council caucus meeting. We have one item on the agenda. Mr. Gatlin.
Yes, and this is pretty brief, but it might trigger a larger conversation. So right now, the fiscal court in Kenton County is in the process of doing a second reading. The information I have is that they're going to do a second reading next week, which will ban medical cannabis in Kenton County. That doesn't stop us. I've had several conversations with Sharmalee on this, and her and I are of the same agreement. The KRS requires a city to overturn the county ban, if that's what the wish of Erlanger is, and we can do that through our zoning ordinance. So if you all recall, we passed a resolution 2 weeks ago to send to PDS for the zone change. The anticipation would be is we would do a first reading probably October, November-ish, based on the timing of when the public hearing would be, and that we would be then ready to do a second reading prior to the end of the year. Within that ordinance, we could build in the repealing or the decision, I guess, of Erlanger to revoke the county ban. Again, right now, the county has not done a second reading. They did a first reading, but they seem to be following suit to what Campbell County did, which is just sort of putting a ban in place to kind of allow cities, I think, more time, because the timeline was kind of tight that the legislature gave us. So my proposal would be that we would include in our zoning ordinance the repeal of the county ban. But I just wanted to discuss it with you all because that is something that's different than when we first did our resolution and PDS was here. We hadn't, at that point, there was not going to be a county ban. And just for everyone that's out there listening, the county ban does not ban the use of it. The county ban just bans the businesses to locate in the county. There's 3 options. So cities can overturn that. Through a petition process, it can be overturned. Those are the 2 options once the county bans it. But it still could be used. It's just the businesses, it wouldn't be allowed. So that's all I have. I don't know if anyone has any questions or comments, but I just wanted to kind of inform people of kind of where the county's at.
I guess I'm confused about how the county, and maybe I just haven't followed everything. I've really looked to read more about this, and I really haven't been able to find much about the county even having a first reading on it. But I guess I'm confused about how the ban gives cities more time, and maybe I'm just not understanding all the different processes. Maybe we moved in a direction that other cities have not, and maybe that's why.
Well, so if you look at the timeline, if you remember when Sharmalee was here, and if you kind of look at what the statute is, the timeline is such that licenses can be issued on July 1st. Businesses can't operate until January 1st. And that cities would have to give, if you're one of the cities that has chosen to give voters the voice on this, like Independence has done, like Crestview Hills has done, those are the only 2 that I'm sure of are doing. I think others are thinking about that. You have to have all that in place pretty much by August 5th. So if you're going to ban it, you got to ban it by July 1st to then give voters the opportunity for a petition. Because if you remember the way the statute is written, people have 30 days once the ban is in place to get, I think, don't quote me on this, but I think it's 10% of last year's registered voters. It's something like that. And they have 30 days to get that petition together. That petition needs to be in front of the clerk before August 5th. So the general concept is if you're going to ban these things, you pretty much have got to do it by July 1st. So I think, and I don't want to speak for the county, but I think the logic in Campbell County, because I've seen that memo, and in Kenton County is, hey, that's a tight time frame. I'm not sure all of our jurisdictions understand that tight time frame. We're going to go ahead and put a ban in place, understanding that every city can overturn the ban anyway. Now, again, I'm not speaking for the county, but I think that's the idea. I have seen the ordinance of the first reading. I was not there, but I do have a copy of their first reading ordinance, which is very thin. It's very simple. It just says we're banning businesses throughout Kenton County.
Basically, our application to PDS is just going to say we want to be kind of exempt from that ban. Is that sort of what we're doing?
Yeah, so we're making the application to go through the process of PDS, to go through the public hearing process, and then when we come back and pass, or when we come back with the proposed text amendment of what it's going to deal with in zoning, in that ordinance, we would then be overturning the county ban, because all the statute requires is a city to overturn that ban. That was all I wanted to discuss tonight, is the logistics that, presuming the city still wants to move forward, we're just going to have to add some language to our zoning ordinance that also overturns at that point what presumably will be the county ban. Again, I think they do their second reading next week at their normal meeting. Yes, Ms. Kyle.
I think we should just move forward and repeal the ban. I'm all for that. Just whatever we planned before, let's just continue, because I think it's the right thing to do. And I don't see a problem with it, so that's
All right.
my opinion.
Anything else? Anybody? Get no decisions made tonight. I just wanted to inform everybody, and it just changes the dynamics a little bit.
Okay. Do I entertain a motion that we adjourn? Ms. Wilson, Ms. Kyle, any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Have a good evening.